If you've had difficulty with trying to ideate or solve a specific problem, or even try to find a problem in the first place for your software business that you want to create, then this video is specifically for you. A lot of people over the course of emails as well as YouTube comments have said that they have trouble with regards to actually finding brilliant ideas. It doesn't only have to be SaaS, it can even be service-based business ideas, but where software is essentially the key representative. And what I want to do is show you the exact process that I used to actually go from a regular software engineer to a seven-figure entrepreneur, and how I came up with my problem slash pain point that I solved, right? And essentially run you through the actual process itself. Now, this is word for word taken from my Startup Accelerator, Code to CEO, but nevertheless, once again, I want you to pay careful attention to this and I'll run you through it. And excuse the Batman voice, I am recovering from a cold, so bear with me. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. So if you're not familiar, pretty much any idea that you're going to be solving for is going to have a problem associated with it. And these problems are going to create certain pain points. It can be one pain point, it can be numerous pain points, but what's certain is that every single idea that you're going to create something for, right, problem is going to be the root cause, and then the pain points are going to determine how worrisome that problem is. And for us to actually check the viability of the problem that we're looking to solve, essentially which idea should we pursue, is our idea a good one, is it worth solving or not, we can actually take a look at the checklist. So essentially the checklist that I created, it's composed of core questions and supporting questions. And the core questions are highlighted in green, as you can see, and then the supporting questions are highlighted in red, as you can see. And essentially, it goes like this. So for the core questions, all the boxes must be ticked. If any are not ticked, then the problem is not worth solving and you're wasting your time on it, and you just move on to the next one. For the supporting questions, at least 70% must be ticked, and if 70% are not met, then there's a good chance you should toss it aside and look for another problem. And the checklist is actually quite simple. So let's take a look at the checklist. We can see that the first one, part of the core questions, is a problem painful enough to demand a solution? So is the problem that we chose, is it severe? If it's not severe, then the target audience won't be motivated to pay for an actual solution, because as we talked about before, pain drives client acquisition. Furthermore, can we create a solution that addresses this pain? Let's say we do find a problem, but if we ourselves can create a product or service around it, then what's really the point, right? So if we say no to this question, then we scratch it and move on to the next problem. Next, does the market you're targeting also have this pain point? So beyond your specific niche of the problem that you chose, does the broader market experience this pain? And for a quick example, if you're, let's say, helping dentists automate scheduling, does the whole dental industry struggle with this, or the specific clinic, let's say, that you found this problem at, right? Is this problem becoming more prevalent? So is this a growing problem, right? Is this a growing pain point in an expanding market? Does it offer long-term success? Or are fewer and fewer businesses essentially experiencing this pain as time goes on? If that's the case, then your solution might become obsolete. Next, is this problem worth solving for high ticket prices? So does the pain point cost your target audience enough time or money to justify paying for a premium solution? If they're willing to pay others to solve it, then there's a very good chance that they can afford high ticket offers. Now, that's part of the core questions. Let's assume we answered yes to all the core questions. Then for now, this problem that hypothetical problem that we chose is essentially a thumbs up. We're good to go with this problem. We can move on to now the supporting questions. Now, the supporting questions is where it actually gets interesting. Number one, are you passionate about solving this problem? So solving a problem you care about will keep you motivated. You'll spend time deeply understanding and addressing it, so choose something that genuinely interests you. Let's say the problem we chose we have no interest in whatsoever. That's fine. We can afford to essentially knock off 30%, right? Only 70 have to be ticked. Are there enough people or businesses facing this pain? The problem must affect a large enough group. So let's say if we're doing B2C, over 10,000 people to support scaling. If we're doing B2B, over 100 businesses. Solving a pain experienced by only a few hundred people may limit your business growth potential. And in this case, let's assume, let's say we're doing something with B2B and it affects at least 1,000 businesses. Next, our competitor is already solving this problem successfully. So competition means that the problem is real and that people are actually paying to solve it. It's a sign that the pain is big enough to build a business around. Now, the reason why this is not marked as a core problem instead of a supporting one is because for two reasons. First and foremost, sometimes when you don't have competition, it can mean one of two things. A, you're extremely early and you're in a blue ocean, right? Or B, nobody really wants your solution, or the problem you're trying to solve isn't really that big. As a result, I didn't put this in core because there can be certain situations where you answer no to this and it can be a good thing. and certain situations where you answer no to this, and it can be a bad thing. As a result, it's part of a supporting question. In this specific case, let's assume that there is competition. Next up, can you realistically compete with existing solutions within 6 months? Now, the time frame is a bit arbitrary here. I chose 6 months because that's essentially what I would say. If you can go to market within 6 months, that would be perfect. If it's going to take you longer, then I would probably look for something else. Most of the times, you'll see in industries such as tobacco, alcohol, and beauty, where it might take, let's say, slightly over a year to compete with existing solutions. But that's because the companies that are even trying to actually compete have multi-million-dollar budgets and so on and so forth. But you specifically just look to see if you can come up with a reasonable solution, at least, to challenge the existing competition within 6 months. And by challenge, I don't mean completely take over the market. I mean just take even your small little slice of the pie. Let's assume yes, we can. And is solving this pain straightforward and repeatable? So can we constantly deliver our solution consistently to different clients without the need for constant reinvention? For example, many of you who want to be essentially creating custom software agencies, you would answer no to this question, right? Because your pain point that you're solving for isn't straightforward, nor is it repeatable. Sure, you can have some form of SOPs and I guess some form of blueprints and quick start mechanisms, right? To begin delivering some form of tailored code or some form of tailored software. But it really depends from client to client. You're going to have different software that you're going to have to build. So as a result, many people who want to do software development agencies, they end up realizing that because this question is a no for them, they end up realizing that they can't afford too many clients at the same time. And second, service delivery is actually quite painful for these type of businesses. So in this case, let's assume that our problem is in fact straightforward and repeatable. So we'll answer yes. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. Can you easily reach those who have this pain? Once again, not a core question despite what people might think, and I'll explain this now. So, if you can't easily find or contact the people suffering from the problem, then obviously it's going to be hard to generate leads. And if it's going to be hard to generate leads, it's going to be hard to generate clients, which means less revenue for you, which means your business will go bankrupt eventually, right? However, for some of you, you'll have some certain unique advantages, right? We already talked about this, be it through your network, be it through your experience, be it through your physical location. Some of you might have an advantage when it comes to reaching out to specific people who have the specific problem that you're solving for. An example off the top of my head that I can think of is, let's say, government problems. Let's say you're trying to solve some type of government problem and you have somebody in your network who works for the government, maybe even that department itself, and you can use them as an in to find and generate leads. Whereas somebody else who's going to try to do the same exact thing you're trying to do, they won't have that plug, right? They won't have, because they don't have that unique advantage for their network to help them out. So I know we kind of emphasize this for this specific problem, but now you need to think, okay, so all these questions that I answered, the ones that I answered no, can I potentially answer yes if I utilize my unique advantage, right? If I look deep enough. That's why I always prioritize the unique advantage first and foremost. That's the first thing I prioritize before we even talk about finding a problem. If you think back to I'll drop it down in the link below as well, the 3-part series where we're finding a problem, we're finding a solution, and then we're monetizing it. Before we even look for the problem, what did we do? We looked for our unique advantage, right? To understand the resources we're playing with, to then begin investing into the different things that we can potentially invest. So let's assume, yeah, we can easily reach those who have this pain. Do you care about the impact of solving this pain for businesses? So if you're helping a business, does solving the problem positively impact the world in a way that motivates you? Now, this is arbitrary. Let's say in my case, not really. I just want to make money, right? I don't care about this. But in certain cases, especially depending on industry you're in, for example, healthcare or something like that, the impact that you have can lead to hundreds, if not thousands, of lives being saved directly. So that can just be an extra bonus for you if you want to answer that. Does this problem exist in social media spaces? So can you use social platforms to reach people who are experiencing this pain and use inbound marketing to get leads? And we mentioned inbound marketing. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's essentially when a customer seeks you being the business out. So instead of you reaching out to your customer, the customer reaches out to you by having seen your content online, be it on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever the case. So in this case, does this problem exist in social media spaces? Oftentimes you'll see that specific problems might not necessarily exist on social media spaces, right? Especially if you look at very niche problems. So in this case, let's assume, yeah, it does exist. Can you directly contact decision makers? So is there a gatekeeper who screens all contact attempts, making it difficult for you to reach those experiencing the problem or not? So an example of this would think of a startup versus Amazon. If you want to reach, let's say, Jeff Bezos, you're going to have a tough time doing so because he has a million gatekeepers, right? And going through his inbox, scanning his phones, and so on and so forth. But if, let's say, it was a new startup and you want to reach out to them, you could very easily reach out to the CEO, the founder of the startup, even on LinkedIn or on email, right? And in this case, let's assume that it's actually difficult for us to contact the decision maker, so we're not going to check this. Do you understand this problem well enough, or could you learn quickly? So if you don't already understand the problem, can you get to grips with it quickly enough to offer a meaningful solution? So in this case, let's assume that we chose a problem outside of our expertise. We don't really have any clue about it, and we're not really confident whether or not we can learn quickly. So I'm going to answer no for this question. And do you speak the language of those who experience this pain? So if you don't understand the way your target audience talks about their pain, then you risk alienating them instead of connecting with them. And this is both in terms of the alphabetical language that they're speaking, alongside do you understand who your audience is? For example, if it's a younger crowd, can you speak their language? If it's an older crowd, can you speak their language? And let's assume that, yeah, I can speak their language. So here I have 11 questions, right? And because I actually answered 4 with a no, this problem would fail the 70% check, right? Because 70% are not ticked. About 63% are ticked because I only ticked 7 out of the 11. So let's assume, for example's sake, I'm just gonna say yes to this, just so our problem can pass. But you would understand that even one small thing here could fail our entire problem set, right? Which is why, as a result, it's so important for us to choose the proper problem. And once we actually choose our problem, then we've pretty much found our niche, right? This was the exercise to finding the niche that we're going to be in. And at this point in time, don't worry about competition or saturation or any of that jargon. Just don't worry about it. And then afterwards, what you would do is create your ideal customer profile, right? Because you've now found the problem and the pain point, you validated it, and now you want to make sure that you understand the people who actually are having it. So there's a B2C section. So you would ask, who are they, right? Describe their day-to-day life. What do they do for work? How do they spend their week? What activities do they enjoy outside of their job? Where do they get their information? On news channels, trends, maybe on YouTube, inspirational type. What's their financial situation like? How much do they earn? How do they feel about their job or income level? Are they content? Are they looking for something more? What concerns or challenges do they have about their financial future? What drives their decisions? So think about their life experiences. What key events in their past have shaped who they are today? Perhaps a former job, a life-changing experience, or pivotal trip influenced their current interests. And how do these events impact their decision making today? And then what's the relationship status? So are they single, married, divorced, or in a relationship? Do they have children? How do their family dynamics affect how they use or integrate your product or service into their daily routine? Does your product address any concerns related to their relationship or family life? Most people gloss over this, but this is actually really important. Funnily enough, I have a friend who is in roofing, and he said the number one reason why, let's say, a sale might not go through in his case is the partner, so either the wife or the husband, will be against it. Most often times, it'll be the wife who will be against it, or they won't be on a call, and the husband will use the wife as an excuse and say, oh, the secondary person who has to make this decision isn't with me on the call, so we cannot close. Just an FYI. Next up, why does your product matter to them? What is it about your product that truly resonates with this person? Does it solve a specific pain point, bring them relief, or simply make their life easier or more enjoyable? And how does it align with their needs or desires? We did product here, but it can also be a service. Keep that in mind. And what are they thinking right before they buy? So imagine the internal dialogue of the person just before they're about to purchase your product. What are they feeling? What are they thinking? What's their final push that really compels them to act and buy? What pain, frustration, or desire are they finally addressing by making this decision? And then we have a similar line of questioning for B2B. Feel free to pause the video and take a look at the questions. I won't go over them. It's very similar to the B2C one, except tailored for, obviously, businesses. But that's pretty much it. What you would do, pretty much any idea that you come up with or any problem that you see in your network, around your network, or whatever the case really that you come up day to day, go through this checklist, run through the checklist, right? If it fails any of these tests, move on to the next one. It's not worth it. Don't waste your time on it. Are there cases where somebody else can make it successful? Yeah, there can always be that case, but it's better to work on a better problem because you'll have a lot more leverage that way. Not all problems are created equal, so remember that. And after you do that, it's very easy. You try to understand your customer as good as possible. I mean, this is a process. This isn't like you sit down in 1 hour, you do this. This will take you a little bit of time to kind of hone down, maybe a week. And then this will probably take you about 1 to 2 weeks as well to try to understand who your customer is and gather as much information as you can about them. But this is probably the single most important part of your entrepreneurial journey. If you can nail this, then everything else will be a piece of cake. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.